I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Tonight. On this evening, it is part 2 of the Brittney Griner saga. I'm going back in time, and I'm going to talk about the timeline that led up to the conviction and sentencing of the WNBA star Brittney Griner. And this is for those of you that may be new to Tyrone Bowman Tonight, and I want to bring you up to speed on this particular story. And so that way you'll know exactly what we're saying and what we're doing. As reported by USA Today, Brittney Griner timeline, events leading up to the WNBA star's conviction in Russia. More than 5 months have passed since Brittney Griner attempted to enter Russia and instead wound up facing drug charges that could keep her imprisoned for years. The two-time Olympic gold medal winner and 8-time WNBA All-Star is being wrongfully detained according to the United States government by Russia on charges of bringing vape cartridges filled with haddish oil in her luggage while returning to play for her professional team there. Griner remained in pre-trial detention for more than 3 months prior to the month's trial. On August 4, she was officially convicted and sentenced to 9 years in prison for drug possession and smuggling. Although the public would not know for more than, 2 weeks, Griner is stopped by Russian authorities. Images later released showing her going through security at Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport while returning to play for her Russian professional basketball team, UMMC Ekaterinburg. Russia's arrest would not be made public for nearly 3 weeks. Representative Colin Alford, a Democrat from Texas, later said on March 9 that the arrest took place on February 17. After weeks of ramped up troop activity near the country's shared border, Russia begins a bloody invasion of Ukraine. In response, the U.S. has provided Ukraine with military support and levied economic sanctions on Russia. This is vitally important because Brittney has now become a political pawn. It's not about the so-called drug possession and alleged drug smuggling. It's not even about the haddish oil. It's not about the vape cartridges. This is politics. She's being used as a political pawn. And if you don't believe it, you stay tuned as she is imprisoned in this Russian prison. The Russian Federal Customs Service says that they detained a professional basketball player, a member of the U.S. National Basketball Association, a 2-time Olympic basketball champion in the U.S. team. Russia state agency TASS identified the player as Griner. The Russian Federal Customs Service maintains Griner carried vape cartridges filled with cannabis oil. The WNBA, the Phoenix Mercury, and U.S. Basketball all said they are monitoring the situation. At press briefing, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken asked about Griner's arrest for the first time. We have an embassy team that's working on the cases of other Americans who are detained in Russia, Blinken said, alongside Moldova President Maui Sandu. We're doing everything we can to see to it that their rights are upheld and respected. When asked about Griner's case, since Blinken has referred generally to all detained Americans, Cheryl Griner, the wife of Brittney Griner, posts an emotional Instagram message thanking supporters and confirming Brittney Griner has been in Russia for weeks. My heart, our hearts are all skipping beats every day that goes by, Cheryl Griner wrote. I miss your voice, I miss your presence. You're our person. There are no words to express this pain. I'm hurting, we're hurting. we await the day to love on you as a family. Russia state media reported earlier in the day that Griner's pretrial detention had been extended until May 19th. A U.S. State Department official told USA Today Sports the embassy in Moscow was being denied consular access. Consular access is finally granted, and State Department spokesman Ned Price said Griner was in good condition. An American considered wrongfully detained in Russia, ex-Marine Trevor Reed, is freed in a prisoner exchange. Griner and Paul Willing remain in custody. Reed appeared at a rally for Griner on June 9 in her hometown of Houston, Texas, and advocated for the release of her and Willing. The U.S. State Department says that it has reclassified Brittney Griner as being wrongfully detained by the Russian government. Thus, Griner's case transfers to the Office of the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs within the State Department. The WNBA season begins on a bittersweet note. Teams display Big G42 decals on courts, and players wear "We Are Big G" shirts throughout the season. Cheryl Griner goes on Good Morning America. This is on the 25th of May. Well, actually, I should have read all the dates since I'm talking about the timeline. So, April 27th, Trevor Reed was freed. May 3rd, U.S. classifies Griner as wrongfully detained. May 6th, WNBA season begins. On the 25th of May, Cheryl Griner appears on Good Morning America. Cheryl Griner goes on Good Morning America and tells Robin Roberts she wants President Joe Biden to act and bring her wife home. "I just keep hearing he has the power. She's political pawn," Cheryl Griner said. "If they're holding her because they want you, Biden, to do something, then I want you to do it." May 27th, the 100th day of Brittney Griner's detention in Russia. June 13th, the State Department officials, including those from the Hostage Affairs Office, meet with members of the Mercury concerning the Biden administration's efforts to secure her release. June 27th, the pre-trial detention is extended to 6 months. A judge sets Griner's trial to begin that Friday. The charges Griner faces could carry a 10-year sentence. As you all know, she was sentenced to 9 years in prison as of today. July 1, Russian legal experts characterized the trial as a sham, but Griner's trial opened with 2 witnesses' testimonies and the absence of 2 others. July 4th, Griner's letter to Biden is released. Representatives for Griner shared a few lines from the handwritten note to Biden, including, "As I sit here in a Russian prison, alone with my thoughts and without the protection of my wife, family, friends, Olympic jersey, or any accomplishments, I'm terrified. I might be here forever," Griner wrote. Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris speak by phone with Cheryl Griner on July 6th. The president called Cheryl to assure her that he is working to secure Brittney's release as soon as possible, the White House said in a statement. And on July 7th, Griner pled guilty. Griner pleaded guilty to the drug charges, saying she had accidentally packed the cartridges into her luggage. "I'd like to plead guilty, Your Honor, but there was no intent. I didn't want to break the law," Griner said in English, per Reuters. The guilty plea was also a tool to secure a more lenient sentence. According to experts, no, that sentence was not lenient. July 14th, in court, Griner received support. In court again, Griner at one point held up a photo of fellow WNBA players wearing her name and number 42 on their uniforms in tribute during part of the 2022 All-Star Game. The captain and general manager of UMMC, Eckentenberg, also testified on behalf of Griner's character. The attending physician gave Brittney commendations for the use of medical cannabis, said her lawyer, Maria Blagofolina. The permission was issued on behalf of the Arizona Department of Health. That was July 15th. July 26th. Brittney Griner's lawyers argue for cannabis use. Griner's lawyers questioned a narcologist who said cannabis could be used to treat chronic pain. Her team did not dispute that she should not have bought the vape cartridges and that they were accidentally packed. On the 27th of July, the U.S. makes substantial offer for prisoner swap. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the United States made a proposal to bring home Griner and Paul Whelan, an American who has been in Russia in custody since 2018 and is serving a 16-year sentence on espionage charges. The U.S. disputes. CNN reported that the U.S. offered Viktor Bout, a Russian arms dealer nicknamed the Merchant of Death, for the prisoner swap. There is utility in sending clear, direct messages to the Russians on key priorities for us, Blinken said. These include the return of Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan and following through on the grain agreement. And last but not least, on July 29th, Blinken spoke with the Russian foreign minister. For the first time since Russia invaded Ukraine, Blinken connected with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. It was a frank and direct conversation regarding the release of Griner and Whelan. Lavrov in Russia responded by suggesting the U.S. keep the negotiations private. August 2nd, prosecutors called narcotic expert to testify. Griner's defense has pointed to a doctor's recommendation for medical cannabis use as to why Griner accidentally packed the cartridges. However, the state responded by calling on a narcotics expert who analyzed a sample of what authorities say they discovered. And as of the 4th of August, Griner was convicted of a drug possession and smuggling. So Griner's 6-month saga came to an end on August 4 when she was officially convicted of drug possession and smuggling following a trial that lasted a little over a month. Russian prosecutors asked that she receive 9.5 years in prison, and she was sentenced to 9 years behind bars. That, my friends, is not leniency. Say this to all you athletes out there and entertainers. Before you decide you want to carry things overseas or across the water, whatever you want to call it, you better make sure you know the law before you get involved. I'm Tyrone Bowman. Never surrender. Never quit.